Elias Merrick was a journeyman navigator, the kind of sailor who kept his logbook crisped, his sextant polished, and his ambitions modest. He served aboard the clipper Windward Star, running cloth, iron, and tea between the ports that ringed the Sunrise Sea. In the years before the unexpected, his life was a neat ledger. So many days outbound, so many days inbound, just enough shore leave to drain a bottle, mend a stitch, and start again. The Windward Star's captain, Aldous Gray, prized steady souls like Elias, and so their routine held unbroken until the storm that smashed them north of the Ember Shoals. The crew fought that tempest for 37 hours, Elias counted. Lightning pricked the sky like needles and stitched haze over the waves. When the final gust passed, the Windward Star hobbled on a splintered foremast and shredded sails. The carpenter declared them seaworthy, but only just. Captain Gray ordered everything not bolted down, brought up for inspection. If it could patch a plank, it stayed. If not, it went overboard to lighten the load. In the jumble carried from the hold, Elias found a small cedar box he did not remember loading. The hinges were delicate brass, etched with swirling vines. No name, no cargo mark, no custom stamp. He waited, curious, while the captain catalogued barrels and crates, then slipped the box beneath his peacoat. Later, in the cramped berth he shared with 3 deckhands, he lifted the lid. Inside lay a mariner's compass, unlike any he had seen. The housing was rosewood, the face unweathered, though it looked ancient, and the needle glowed faintly, as if painted with foxfire. Strangest of all, it did not point north. Elias confirmed his suspicion with his own instrument. The magnetic needle in his battered brass compass swung dutifully toward the pole, but the new compass pointed southeast, directly away. He tried turning the device, moving it near iron, covering it with cloth. The needle drifted, but always returned to that same queer heading. On the inside of the lid, a phrase was burned in delicate script: toward the hearts most in need. Superstition runs beside salt water like shadow beside flame. Sailors carry charms, whisper oaths, refuse to name the wind for fear it might listen. Elias was rational by habit, but he recognized omen when it stepped aboard. He wrapped the compass, stowed it, and said nothing. 2 dawns later, the Windward Star crept into the lee of an uncharted atoll, one that lay precisely on the bearing the strange needle still indicated. Broken masts from other ships protruded like ribs from its reefs. Smoke smudged the horizon. As they drew closer, they saw survivors waving tattered flags along a strip of sand. A slaver brig had wrecked here a week prior. Its captives, freed by circumstance, were marooned with little water and less food. Captain Gray hesitated. The cargo hold carried crates owed to merchants in distant cities. His orders were explicit: arrive in Eldwith by the summer market or pay penalties, but need shimmered on the shore like heat light. Elias, usually quiet during command debate, spoke up. "We can mend on the reef's lee, sir," he said. "Those people won't live another tide." Others murmured agreement. The choice weighed heavy, but the captain's heart was larger than his ledger. They anchored, ferried supplies, and patched the brig's survivors into temporary safety. 2 extra days cost them bonuses, but the Windward Star sailed on. That night, Elias took out the cedar box, telling himself he was only curious. The needle, idle in calm water, swung anew. This time the bearing angled west, toward the sprawled archipelago they typically skirted. Its charted harbor, Claymore, was known more for smugglers than commerce. When Elias called attention to the heading, a wild notion took root. Was the compass drawing them to each crisis? And if so, why had it come to him? Elias revealed the device to Captain Gray. Some masters would have laughed or ordered the thing tossed, deeming it witchery. Gray listened, brow furrowed under thin silver hair. "If it means trouble, we have enough already," he said. "But perhaps trouble is just another word for duty." He ordered their damaged rig adjusted and set the new bearing. The crew, stirred by their recent rescue, obeyed willingly. Claymore came into view 2 days afterward. Rubble of a town perched on volcanic rock with fishing shacks linked like brackets to the cliffs. Normally a lighthouse winked red at its point. Now only smoke rose from the promontory. An undersea quake had crumpled half the harbor and swamped the docks. Loss of the lighthouse had left incoming vessels blind. 3 had wrecked on the jagged shoals. When the Windward Star arrived, fishermen and widows lined the seawall, waving anything white. Gray's clipper, though wounded, was the largest ship still afloat. They ferried the injured aboard, rigged tackle to drag apart a collapsed roof, and turned their medical locker inside out. By dawn, no one doubted the coincidence. The compass had forewarned them. Word spread, sailors are the world's best messengers, and soon harbor masters started scanning horizons for the battered green sails of the Windward Star. Some hailed it as an angel, others as a storm crow. Either way, the ship rarely made its scheduled route. The more they followed the strange compass, the more distress they found. A fever-struck garrison on Sparrow Cay, an orphanage starving after pirates burned the supply depot at Luscar, a colony of pearl divers trapped when a cave-in bottled their only exit. Each time the compass pointed true, and each time the crew delivered aid. They grew lean on profits, but fat on stories. There were dissenters. First Mate Hollis argued that goodwill did not pay wages. The world's full of misery, he grumbled. A compass like that's a curse, never allows rest. A handful signed off at the next safe port. New hands signed on with bright eyes and emptier pockets, drawn by tales of the guiding needle. The Windward Star became a floating paradox, half charity, half merchantman, always late yet always welcomed. Months rolled into a year. Salt bleached the deck, ropes thinned, and the hull bore scars like old bark. Even so, Elias felt richer than he had under the plumpest contracts. He recorded every port, every life saved, every coincidence that no longer seemed coincidence. He also noticed the compass needle now pulsed, a faint heartbeat of emerald light whenever they drew close to shore as though it sensed relief. Then came the summons that nearly broke them. In the port of Thessa, capital city, hive of politics, an emissary waited at the dock with a seal from the Admiralty. Famine had struck the inland kingdoms after locusts stripped fields bare. Barges up the Jade River carried grain south, but rebels seized the gorge, choking the passage. The only alternate was to run supplies by sea and land them north of the river mouth at Breakwater Bay, a harbor known for brutal tides, charted poorly, avoided by all sane captains. The Admiralty offered gold weight and tax pardon for any ship that made the run. Many had tried. 2 foundered. 1 returned crippled. The compass, when shown the chart, quivered then snapped to Breakwater Bay. That settled the matter for Captain Gray, though it knotted his stomach. The crew met in the mess, voting hands. 22 for yes, 6 against. Majority ruled. They filled the hold with sacks of millet, kegs of cornmeal, crates of hardtack, and jars of medicinal salve. The Windward Star rode so low the sea kissed gunwales. The passage to Breakwater was cruel. Winter's first gale pummeled them for 3 days. Sheets tore. A boom snapped like a shot, killing a deckhand named Rourke. They sewed him in canvas and sang low hymns, and Elias kept the compass by his heart, wondering if destiny required blood. On the 8th day, basalt cliffs rose like teeth through mist. The bay's entrance was a slit between reefs that spat white water. Another ship, smaller, lay capsized on a rock, her crew waving frantically. Gray's lips thinned. "We get them? Or we don't deserve the wind?" he muttered. Under Elias's directions, drawn more from faith than chart, they maneuvered close enough to launch lines. One by one, they pulled the survivors, a woman captain, 2 midshipmen, 4 stevedores. The tide fought them, but they hauled clear before dusk. By lantern glow, the woman captain introduced herself as Mara Venn, commander of the courier ship Harebell. Housing busted, rations lost. She stared at the glowing compass. "That bring you here?" she asked. Elias nodded. She touched the glass dome with reverence. "I thought hope was lighter than iron. Turns out it has a needle." Morning revealed Breakwater's dock. If timber shards could be called such, inland smoke columns marked hungry villages. No crane remained, no warehouse. They would have to lighter cargo ashore in longboats between tides, racing waves that lifted and dropped 20 feet. For 3 days they worked without pause, muscles screaming. Gray's arthritic hands roped sacks beside teenagers. Hollis the skeptic turned believer stood knee-deep in the surf to pass barrels before waves swallowed them. Elias monitored the compass. When he held it toward the village, its glow brightened, as if cheering them along. On the final night, sea bandits arrived, 4 corsairs stained black with pitch to blend with darkness. Elias was on midwatch. Lantern-hooded, he scanned the star-pricked water and saw nothing. The compass needle, however, jerked, spinning 180 degrees, then settled on a point off the bow. He peered through the spyglass and caught the faint outline of hulls slithering across starlight. Shouts rang, battle unfurled, grappling hooks, cutlasses. The Windward Star had neither guns nor soldiers, but men and women who had hauled strangers from fire and sea were not meek. They pummeled boarders with belaying pins, hurled boiling tar from the galley stove, and fought back to back across the heaving deck. Elias wielded an oar like a pike, recalling farm chores long before he became a sailor. He defended the quarterdeck where the compass sat lashed to the railing. A corsair lunged, steel flashed. Elias parried, slipped, felt the blade graze his forearm. Blood dotted the planks. At that instant, lightning single, silence sketched the sky. The compass blazed green as if entire jungles lived inside it. The corsair faltered, eyes wide, then retreated. Something in that light unnerved hardened thieves. They broke, dove over, and vanished into dark. When dawn found them, the tide had gentled. Supplies lay squared on shore, guarded by grateful villagers. Elias bandaged wounds stung, but his heart soared. The Admiralty's promised gold waited in Thessa, but Captain Gray announced half would remain for Breakwater's rebuilding. No one argued. The mayor wept openly. Far inland, caravans would soon carry food where famine reigned. If revolution simmered, let it be fed by bread, not hunger. Their mission complete, the Windward Star limped back to Thessa. Admiralty officials blinked at the battered vessel, at crew members thin as fishing poles, and at the ledger that showed minus profit. Yet the seal of success was undeniable. Villages signed testimony, the rescued courier captain corroborated. Gold was weighed, but Captain Gray requested instead that harbor fees be waived in perpetuity for ships conducting relief. Astonished, yet eager to polish their public image, the Admiralty agreed, drafting the Charter of Compassionate Passage. Other captains soon followed. Elias, meanwhile, spent hours studying the cedar box. He traced the words toward the hearts most in need and wondered who had crafted such an artifact. In Thessa's grand library, he scoured dusty annals. One parchment spoke of the Calder Meridian, a mythical line drawn not across maps, but across deeds, the shortest path between suffering and solace. Legend told of instruments attuned to that invisible current. Saints and pirates alike had chased them. Few had found them, none had kept them long. That last clause troubled him. Was ownership possible? Or would the compass leave when its bearer learned whatever lesson it meant to teach? He did not wait long for the answer. One quiet evening, while the ship underwent repairs, Elias walked the pier. Night fishermen cast glowing nets, lanterns bobbing like amber moths over water. He paused to breathe tar-sweet air and looked down. The compass, tucked in his inside pocket, felt suddenly weightless. Startled, he reached, but his fingers met only cloth. Panic flickered. He retraced steps, searched deck and dock until moonset. At dawn, he slumped beside a crate, heart bruised. A shadow fell, a young boy in ragged coat, eyes large with recent tears. He held the compass between thin palms. It was in the road, he said. The needle kept pulling me. Behind him stood a girl, smaller, coughing fits that curled her shoulders. Elias saw at once. Street urchins, starved, invisible. He knelt, and the compass swung in the boy's hands toward the girl. Its glow brightened, audible now like distant chimes. Elias drew a silver coin, then two, then his own coat. He found a food stall not yet open, banged until the baker emerged and bought 3 loaves, wedges of cheese, a flask of lemon tonic. The boy tried to refuse. Elias insisted. Tears carved clean tracks on the child's cheeks. When they had eaten, Elias offered the compass back. The boy shook his head. "It's not mine," he whispered. "It's telling me where she should go." He pointed down the harbor road toward the Sisters of Mercy hospice. Together they walked the siblings to its gate. A nun ushered them in, promising blankets and broth. From the doorway the boy turned. The compass needle flickered between Elias and the hospice, as if deciding where its duty lay. The boy pressed it into Elias' hands. "For the next heart," he said, and vanished inside. Elias returned to the Windward Star at sunrise. He found Captain Gray reading a letter from the Admiralty praising their example. Gray looked up, eyes rimmed red from age or sentiment. "We sail again tomorrow, old friend," he said. "Cargo holds empty, world still full." Elias smiled, feeling the compass thrum like a second pulse. On the chart table lay new reports: drought in the Eastern Isles, plague rumors on the Southern Reach, a lighthouse dark at the teeth of Ansel. He set the cedar box down, lifted the lid. The needle spun, then leveled on a fresh bearing northeast, where cloud banks stacked like fortresses. Wherever that was, someone waited unaware that salvation had already weighed anchor. He closed the lid gently, secured the box, and stepped onto deck. Dawn painted the rigging, sanguine gold. Sailors unfurled patched canvas, while gulls clamored overhead, heralds in white uniform. The windward star stretched under the morning breeze, ready once more to outrun simple profit in favor of something less tangible, but infinitely heavier. Elias felt the deck's heartbeat through his boots, mirroring the tiny glow in his pocket. And so the ship that followed kindness instead of north turned her prow toward unmarked horizons. No charts could predict her landfalls, no timetable could confine her voyages. Yet stories traveled faster than monsoons, and in every harbor eyes scanned the sea for green sails and a light that burned, not to blind but to guide. Somewhere beyond the curve of the world, a need waited, and beyond that, another, until mankind had no more sorrow or the sea ran dry. The compass would swing, and Elias Merrick would follow, certain only of this: true north is merely a direction, as true kindness is a destination, and it moves.